Hello everybody, this is Catholic Dad episode number 162, Female Altar Servers. Now, I'm not judging anybody here, and I'm not actually trying to say anything in either direction, but I am trying to point out something that I think is true from the viewpoint of being male. In the last video, I actually stated that girls are pretty much as good at most things that guys are as good as guys at pretty much everything, with the exception of moving heavy rock, fighting in wars, and all sorts of other things like that. So let's get down to the topic of altar serving. You know, for the majority of church history, it's been the boys that have been the altar servers. And in my mind, this kind of makes a little bit of sense because being an altar server is kind of like an apprenticeship for being a priest. And so if you're being an apprentice for being a priest and females can't be priests, then probably this should be reserved for altar servers, reserved for boys. However, along history, all of a sudden John Paul II, St. John Paul II, came along and liberated the altar serving to allow girls on the altar. And I'm not saying anything about the saint, and I'm not saying anything right or wrong about this, but I am pointing out something that's obvious in my brain. When boys have responsibility, and when they're serving the Lord and they're on the altar, and you put girls into the mix, suddenly you do change the dynamic, and you change the dynamic because girls are very good at everything, and they tend to like doing things like that, and they're very good at them, and so they step in. And what do boys do once girls get involved and they actually take the responsibility and take control of things, which they tend to do? The boys step away and they divorce themselves from that responsibility or that vocation. And I think probably the collapse in the priesthood and the collapse in vocations correlates pretty, it's pretty linear with the changes in the mass and with the girls being on the altar, because then the boys suddenly feel shut out. They walk away, and I'm not saying it's the girls' fault at all. But I am saying that once you put girls in the mix, boys tend to walk away and they don't want to do it anymore. It's kind of like if you have Boy Scouts and you throw a whole bunch of girls in there, suddenly the boys are going to leave the Boy Scouts. That's just the way it works. This is Catholic Dad making you think about it. And I'm not saying that girls shouldn't be on the altar. I'm making no judgments here. But if you want your boys to have responsibility, if you want to build the vocations of priesthoods, something should be reserved for them, where they can claim their responsibility and claim their manliness, their boyness, where there's something for them, something to earn, something to serve, something, because boys like responsibility, they like service, they like, helping. But all that dynamic changes when you throw girls in the mix, and suddenly they walk away. And I think there was a collapse of altar servers ever since that decision was made. But I think we're seeing it turn around these days as more. I think I've seen a lot less girls on the altar recently, and the boys seem to be doing a much better job in their capacity with less girls on the altar. And again, it's not to smote the girls out there. I think they're great at everything that they do. But the boys kind of do need something of their own, and I'm not saying girls shouldn't be on the altar, but sometimes they need an avenue of service. And again, if being an altar server is an apprenticeship for being a priest, which it kind of is, and girls can't become priests, then sometimes the boys should do it. Just think about that. This is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the daily rosary. God bless you and have a nice day.